carriers, you have to do this, to make sure that you're going to be able to keep your company running. This is something that is very, very, very important to make sure that you guys are safe as carriers. You're able to keep your doors open. You have to do this.
Hello, and welcome to Carrier Code, your inside track to the strategies, stories, and leaders driving the trucking industry forward. Today's episode is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL Ticket Defense for Professional Drivers, and produced by Bulldog, Trucking's podcast pros. I'm Christy Choice, here with my co-hosts Justin Copeland and Rocco Morari. How's it going today, guys?
Hey, how's it going, Christy, Rocco?
Hey, everyone.
Woo, it's going pretty good over here at CCP. We're super excited about this episode where we're going to be kind of chatting through some more current, relevant events. What do you think, guys?
There's been a lot going on lately, so there's plenty to talk about, that's for sure.
I agree 100%. I mean, we're going to cover quite a few different topics today, everybody, so make sure you stay tuned.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Rocco, let's just jump on in, right? I think that you and I, we do some extensive traveling in our roles at our respective companies, and we get to see a lot. We get to hear a lot. We are the boots on the ground. So I know you've been real busy while I've been home working. So what have you been seeing out there?
Man, honestly, I'm a little concerned. I don't know where the state of the industry is going right now, guys. Recently, we just got back from a safety conference that's typically really well attended. It was less than stellar. Let's put it that way. I was surprised at the lack of vendors. Not only the lack of vendors, also, vendors that paid to be there didn't show up. So it's really concerning me on where are we going this year?
So you got vendors that have already committed and paid, and they just didn't even show up.
There were empty 10 by 10s, 10 by 20s. I mean, they had their name on it. Just nobody.
Wow.
Whoa.
So I don't know where we're going. Earlier in the year, we all attended a ton of shows, and they were trending lighter. And I was thinking, maybe it's because, they were back to back on top of each other. What I've learned is a lot of these associations don't play well together. And instead of learning to play well together, they're hurting each other by this infighting that, even though it's really not fighting, but they are, they're butting heads. I want my conference this day. I want mine this date. And they just don't talk to each other. So, at that point I was thinking it's probably something to do with that. But now as the fall is coming in, we had our first big show, of the fall here recently. And my God, it was concerning. And I know carriers are really, tightening up budgets. I know a lot of vendors are tightening up budgets. They're not allowing people to travel. The ATA has their big TMC Super Tech coming out and coming here shortly. And again, rumor is, vendors and carriers are not allowing their staff to travel to it. So it's really concerning. And I think that's a negative in the industry, guys, because that's where you learn. That's where you benchmark. Justin, Chrissy, what do you guys think on that? I mean, that's where we take those steps forward. And if we don't have that, where are we going to end up?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I think through this year, it's been interesting because one day someone said, well, where have you been? And I was like, I counted it up. I went into all my flight apps and everything, and I counted it up. And I've been to 30 cities this year, right? And that's not counting separate individual events, because sometimes I go one city and it just so happens that there are multiple things going on and I can just stay and just be there. And I mean, I feel like the first 3 quarters of the year so far have been really, really, really great. Good attendance, solid performance, lots of wonderful different vendors and things. I know people are switching it up, because it's really difficult when, you go to start planning an event, you go out there and you try to get a good rate so that you don't have to pass that cost on to the attendees, but then they try to lock you into a multi-year contract. And it's hard to tell this time 2 years from now how the industry is going to be, right? So sometimes it does look like big rooms with not a lot of people in it.
Right.
But for the most part, I look for engagement. I look for networking opportunities. I look for, sponsorship opportunities, especially in my role, and ways that we can help move the industry forward in that way. if you know me, you know I probably sing this. I want to be where my clients are. So it's like, hey, if my clients are going to be there, I want to be
Well,
in the
yeah.
room.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, but the one thing, yeah, and I like what you said, we don't know where the attendees are going to be within the next couple of years. So you got these multi-year contracts and so forth. But then what really bothers me is as we're getting closer, we've already registered, right? So we paid our
Yeah.
registration. Well, then all of a sudden emails come out. If you register now, it's going to be 25% less,
Discounts.
50%. Yes.
Yep.
So how does that looks terrible.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to do that, you need to pass it on to the people who've been supporting you for all these years.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys saw the email from one of the major associations,
Yeah,
but
I
they're
did.
offering a 75% discount for new
Mhm.
members. Now,
Yeah.
how is that fair? I mean, I hate to say this. When you have somebody who's been paying throughout the years.
Rocco.
I'm just
Okay,
saying,
we're gonna
guys.
fight. We're gonna fight
I'm just
because
saying.
no, like I'm on the opposite end of that. I
Okay,
think that
well,
it
that's good.
is. I think that it is because I mean, you want people to get there and you want them to be incentivized to come, but also like what early discounts are you offering, and is
It's a
that truly the
double-edged sword,
best?
right?
It is. It
Yes,
is.
yes. And I'm just like, just get you there.
Yeah.
You can feel however you want to feel about it. But I know sometimes we don't get to make those budget decisions like right away, right? It's always a timing thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't discount it at all for any of those, any of the people putting together these things with associations or even like 10th Street, when you guys have your conference every year, is you have to be able to scope what's the size based off of previous attendance and then
Mhm.
early enrollment as well, or early sign up for these conferences. But
Yeah.
I agree with you, Christy, is there's got to be something on the front end to encourage more earlier signing
Mhm.
up for these conferences and things like that to get them there. And then, yeah, you can then maybe pass on some more discounts as you start to realize you're not going to have the turnout. Rocco, for that conference that you were at, was the turnout for the carriers really, really low as well as the
Yes.
vendors?
Yep, 100%.
Wow. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
Okay.
was.
2025 has been challenging. You come off of, so let's take it all the way back a few years ago. 22, Steam started picking up for everybody. 23 was a great year, I know, certainly for us. Then 24, bam, we just hit a wall. And that's where we started really cutting back on our attendance and our traveling and everything like that. I mean, and just business traveling in general, we're not doing a ton of it. We're doing the essentials and the necessary stuff. But we used to just go to the terminals and visit just to be present, be out there and things like that. And we want to, it's just not fiscally responsible. So, you get into 25 here and, I certainly share those same concerns that you had mentioned there, Rocco, where yes, I feel like these associations, they don't play well with each other. They want to back up to each other and they're forcing companies to have to say, well, I'm going to go to this one, but not this one. They're trying to do their own thing and understand that, but there should almost be an association of associations and just to talk about it and just say, hey, look, I don't want to take from you and I don't want you to take from me. So where do we have these conferences so that way we can get the same attendees at our conferences? How do we spread this out? Because really you've got the spring, the late winter, through the spring conference season. And those are, man, I feel like I'm going back to back to back to back to back. And you guys are going to triple what I go to.
Yeah. I mean,
so I can only imagine
early January. I mean, it starts for us, and again, it's one of those things, guys, where, and everybody's touching on the same point here. We, like for Christy and I, we have to be there, because if you're not there, then it's not, Pedigree's not there, 10th Street's not there. Is why aren't they there? What's
Mhm.
going on? So then
Yeah.
rumors start. So, we have to be there. We have to be present.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because even when you're not there, because things happen, there was a conference and we're talking about some overlap here. And so I can only be in one place at one time and I have to make a decision about where I would go. And I chose to go. We still sponsored the event and sent support and all that good stuff. I just wasn't there. And so I got a couple of text messages. Hey, why aren't you here? What's up? And I'm like, hey, the people who needed to know, they know what's going on. But I mean, sometimes it is like that, especially for the travelers. But
Yeah.
I kind of want to just question some of the ways that we participate, right? I'm looking for, when I have to make those hard decisions, it's based on the networking opportunities and the ROI. It comes back to the return on investment. Are the sessions engaging? Are they relevant? Are the speakers good? What opportunities do we have to interact and intermingle with clients that are there? Now, it's very interesting though, because I have been to plenty of shows where the vendors outnumber the carriers.
Yep.
And it's just a little different because I'm like, wait, what? And you're trying to talk to people, and I'm like, oh, you're sitting at that other booth over there. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to the carriers,
That's not a
I
good
want to find
scenario,
my
right?
people.
No.
I want to find my people.
But-
So, like, what are you all like looking for when you're going or to make a decision about how you will attend or when you'll go?
Yeah, Christina, and I like that, what you just stated too. And we were all talking here, everybody, a little bit earlier about a couple of recent shows and the lack of, I always look at what's our exhibit time, because that's important. We spend a lot of money to be there, so we should have enough time to at least exhibit and show what we're bringing to the market. Also, like you said, I like the networking opportunities, the sessions, they have to be engaging. But I always look at, when the organizations are putting this together, think things through. We have exhibit time that starts at 6:45, 7 in the morning till 8. Who's going to be there? Nobody.
Right. Nobody.
I mean, truly, it's all vendors because you have to be there. And
Yeah.
that's a waste. And that really drives me nuts when they do that.
Well,
And they
attendees
sell
are
it,
in sessions, right?
Yeah.
So they're not going to be
or they're
there
in
in the
sessions.
exhibit hall.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And they try to sell it, well, you're going to get 6 hours of exhibit time, 7 hours. But really, if you got 2 mornings, no one's there in the morning. We know that. Then they give you, maybe an hour at lunch. Well, guess what happens, guys? At lunch, they're working. So people are checking their emails.
Mhm.
So you very rarely get very many people in the afternoon sessions. Now, when we got the free alcohol at night, that's when everybody comes in. So you bank
Everybody's
on that one
partaking in that.
Yeah, you bank on that one session.
You know what conference I think does this better than most, and better than they do in the rest of their other conferences. But MC&E. MC&E, if you think about it, there's longer exhibit durations, and you look at that exhibit hall. Now it's MC&E, so it's just
It's
packed.
huge. Oh,
It's packed full of people. I mean, you got tons of people there, tons of vendors, but it encourages the engagement from motor carriers to you guys as vendors.
Yeah.
Walk in the exhibit hall, seeing what's new, what's on the horizon. So I can tell you from the motor carrier side, Christy, you asked like, what's the decisions on or what are you looking for when you're trying to decide what conferences you're going to go to? Things like that. Well, I mean, first and foremost for me is I have to be out there in the exhibit hall. I have to understand what is out there in the industry. Whether it's another ATS or whether it's another telematics provider, doesn't matter. I need to be informed. Whether I'm happy or not happy, which I'm happy, guys.
Okay.
I have to. It's my
Sweating a little
job to understand what's out there in the industry. That's part of my role. Now, as far as the content, I go through the schedule and I say, hey, you know what? That's one I want to be a part of. That's one I want to listen to. And so I'm looking for the that kind of stuff as well. I need to know that I'm going to go there and I'm going to walk away with something. Hey, boy, I didn't look at this problem this way, or hey, I don't have this problem right now, or this issue or whatever it might be, but now I've heard how some others are addressing it, or maybe some regulatory changes on the horizon and things like that. And being as part of the safety council for ATA, I like going and being present at our advisory board meetings and talking about the direction in which we're going to take things and just being involved. Everybody's got their own reasons, but I think that for the most part, the motor carriers are looking at it, which should be the same way that I am, is, hey, what kind of session content do they have that's going to be, valuable to me? And then what's the exhibit going to look like that I can engage and understand what's out there in the industry?
Yeah. Well, something you said, Justin, was really insightful there because you're talking about the sessions that are happening. And I agree. I think we all agree that they need to be engaging, but they also need to be inclusive. And I've sat in a lot of conversations where it started at a higher level and just went up from there. And I'm like, hey, you lost me, but I'm looking around the room and I'm like, you lost most of us.
Yeah.
Right. And then some that
Glassed
are
over
too
eyes.
basic.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then others that are too basic that I'm like, anybody who's been here for a minute or a month knows this. Come on, give me something else. Right.
Yep.
And so as a presenter, I think that there's a whole lot to say about being inclusive, right? Hey, let's create a foundation here. Let's build on it. Let's challenge. Let's expose to new perspectives. And then let's end at a place where everyone walks away with a takeaway, a challenge, and some homework to do, right? That helps makes us better. I just don't find that type of scale in lots
Mhm.
of presentations sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think I'm hard to please. I just also think that everyone's at a different place in their career and what they know.
Let me ask you guys both this, because we've all presented in these environments. When you go to a conference, there's generally just a handful of different formats. There's a straight topic session where you have a single speaker. Then you have your round tables, and so that gives everybody kind of that opportunity to just talk about kind of current events and challenges and what are you doing to fix that. And then there's the panels. Do you guys have is there one that really just draws you in more than the
Well.
other? Or, I can understand that probably there's value in all three of them, right? And some of the really good content on the single speaker or two people up there, whatever, engaging can be good too. But do you have a preference yourselves?
For me, guys, I don't, because I've been burned on panels. People jump in the last minute. I mean,
We know.
everybody,
Rocco,
everybody
we
knows.
know.
Oh,
I know. I
epically.
think everybody out here looking.
Oh, yeah.
And it happened more than once.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, you have a set agenda, then somebody comes in and goes rogue,
Yeah.
and you're on the panel, and you don't know what the hell to do.
So
it's
for our
crazy.
listeners, real quick, Rocco, for our listeners, I was supposed to be on that panel with Rocco.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
But I got
appreciate
asked
it,
to be
buddy.
on two different panels, and ATA, of course, wants to kind of spread it around, and I appreciate that absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I went with the other panel, and the individual that they put in that spot, oof. I come out of mine, and all I'm hearing about is, oh, Rocco and this
Train wreck?
individual they were not getting along, and this other individual, their perspective was just way left field, and yeah, it was interesting. I'll say I was doing a panel discussion as well. It was awesome. We had a packed room. It was really, really engaging. Exactly like what you were talking about, Christy. You can't start way up here and stay up there and just go we're breaking it down. We understand that we have a lot of individuals in there that are actually there for the first time, period. So they've never been to that conference. They're there for the first time. And we're covering, we had 10 different topics we wanted to cover in like a 45-minute. It should have been a 2-hour panel. It was super engaging with the audience, a lot of questions back and forth. It was awesome. So much so that I'm going to go to Deesa's event in January, and we're going to do very similar this type of panel discussion. So
Yep.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there too. That's gonna be fun.
Will you?
It's gonna be a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rocco, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you
it's
were
okay, No, it's all right. I'm glad you
I figured
did,
our
it brought back memories that I love to reminisce on.
yeah.
But I also think it depends on a topic and who you're talking to, and again, like Chris said, the type of environment. I get to see from a different perspective. I'm the IT chair for the National Accountant Finance Council, so I help set up the trade shows. Where we're going to be at, the guests, the speakers, and we really work hard to make it engaging. And sometimes, honestly, you miss the mark, and it's not that it's intentional. The speaker may have embellished, and I think we've all three of us got to experience that before.
Oh,
so you
times.
really don't know. Yeah, so you don't know what you're going to get, but I can tell you, we try to make it fit the room because at NAFC it's really controllers and CFOs, so we try to gear everything towards that and so forth. But if more organizations did that, I think that would really set the stage going forward on what we can expect from trade shows. It's not again, I'm not a big fan of going to, but freight waves. I mean, that's something completely different. You have 8-hour exhibit time, and it's not what I expect when I go to a trade show to learn about the industry.
Yeah.
So, and that's what makes it different, because everybody has their own perspective. So you're able to pick and choose what you want to do, where you want to go.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in knowing from those who are listening out there, what do you prefer? Do you like that single, or sometimes they double up, but that type of session where a single person is presenting information, or a roundtable discussion? I've been a part of some of those. They're really cool. But everybody has to kind of want to get something out, to put something in, or a panel discussion. Now, you can email us at knowthecode@carriercodepodcast.com and let us know what you prefer. Oftentimes, Justin, Rocco, and I will participate in any variety of these while we're traveling and going, participating with many different associations, and interacting with carriers in the industry. But I just think it'll be fun for you to tell us what you prefer. Okay, now we're going to take a really quick break, but when we come back, we are going to dive into a couple other very current events. You don't want to miss an opportunity to learn more. This is Carrier Code.
Carrier Code is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL ticket defense for professional drivers. Hey, Justin from Carrier Code here. I'd like to thank Driver's Legal Plan. They protected my CDL while I was out there on the road. They can protect yours too. It just takes a phone call. It's only $2.98 a week, and they will help protect your CDL. Contact Driver's Legal Plan today and let them defend you like they have me and more than 400,000 other cases. When you need CDL ticket defense, there's only one, Driver's Legal Plan. Call 1-800-580-8789 or visit driverslegalplan.com for your free consultation. Again, that's 1-800-580-8789 or driverslegalplan.com.
Hello, welcome back to Carrier Code. Today's conversation continues with some very strong opinions on conference travel and the state of the industry. I know that there are a lot of things going on, lots of different perspectives. Rocco and I duked it out in the first segment, and I won. Ha ha. Just kidding. But we want to talk about a couple other topics too. So what else is going on? We talked about the state of our industry that we love so much, but I know that there's lots of regulatory updates and changes happening, namely with the English language proficiency. And we were just talking through some changes and just talking through, hey, what has happened from June till now? You guys know what's going on?
Yeah, you guys, I was just at that last conference, and something really concerning was being mentioned is over 1,200 drivers failed their proficiency exam. 1,200 drivers on the road who can't read or write the language that they're supposed to be able to do in order to keep us safe and themselves safe. And I find that appalling. And
Rocco, that's also just a 2-3 month snapshot too, and that's it.
Yeah.
So just exponentially, right? That's just going to get worse, unfortunately.
Now, is this carrier specific? Do we have certain carriers who are hiring individuals who can't speak and write the language, and you're just trying to fill seats? And this really falls into Justin and Christy, where you guys, your area of expertise. What do you guys feel on that? Because I think you're going to have those carriers who don't care, and they're going to hire whoever. Because I saw that in my previous life. I can tell story after story after story. So then you got carriers such as yourself who give a damn. So what are your guys' thoughts on? And that's all that we know about right now. So how many really have failed that, or are they skirting the system,
or they just haven't? They just haven't had their opportunity to be stopped by enforcement.
Right.
I mean, I'll tell you, certainly when the focus came down from the current administration on this topic, right, to rescind the 2016 direction of not strongly enforcing this, and now going back to this needs to be an enforcement topic. I think from my perspective, I understand why. It's been a regulation for forever. All right. It's been a regulation forever. It's been a requirement forever, with some grace and around certain areas. Like you have like border zones and stuff like that, where even today the ELP won't be something that's held against the carrier if the driver cannot read or speak the English language. But that's intended for cross-border traffic. So they're going to come in, they're going to get their load, and they're going to go back out. But, just the conversations when this started coming out, we're certainly worried. We have a very diverse fleet, and, some people are not as proficient as maybe they should be. So, of course, we worry about their livelihoods. We worry about the effects that it can have on us. I reached out to the CVSA, one of the contacts over there, and it was a long, informative conversation about that. And, of course, you're not going to get the questions given to you as a motor carrier. They don't want you teaching your drivers how to pass it, or the signs, because the signs change depending on what area of the country you're in, because, it may be a specific sign for that area that you need to be somewhat knowledgeable in and understand how to recognize. The biggest thing that was pointed out to me from this CVSA person was simply is there's no clear direction to get back in service once you've been placed out of service. Think about that. There isn't. I mean, do you go down some? Do you go to an open way station and go, hey, can I take my exam again so I can show you that I've now learned the English language better and I now can understand and identify these signs? I mean, what's the process? Once you're out of service, right?
Well, hold on, Justin. Let me take a step back, because what are the enforcement officers even how are they doing the test?
It's a good question.
Is it standard
I had
across
that
the
same
board?
question.
Or, I mean, are they able to pick and choose?
So
Did they give you shed any
yes,
light on
they
that for
actually
you?
did, and they said, the English language proficiency before they get to the science stuff is actually just the standard engagement to the driver upon stop. Right, Rocco. Hey, do you understand why I stopped you? Can I get your license and your registration? And what are you hauling? And it's engaging in very typical investigative questions. In the depends
Basic
on how those
questions.
responses come back.
Oh boy.
Well, and I'm thinking about this too, put yourself in that driver's position now. Let's say for whatever reason we're in Europe and we're drivers and I don't know the language or I don't know it well enough. That's how I'm looking at this. Now I get pulled over by, enforcement. What am I going to do? Now is that on me or is that going to fall on the carrier that hired me?
Unfortunately, that falls on us as a carrier. That's a huge concern, right? So this violation goes in the driver fitness basic. As motor carriers, I feel like we have done through vendor solutions and our own processes have all greatly diminished the number of driver fitness violations any of us get. So that's why so few violations can actually lead you to go over threshold. So that's a huge concern of mine. Now, unless the rest of the industry starts equally getting violations as much as everybody else, and so then the scoring, the methodology then doesn't weight you. It just weights you fairly, and you may not go over threshold. But I can tell you, I've been at a motor carrier where 5 driver fitness violations. First of all, it takes 5 before you even have a score. Put us over. It put us over. We were in alert status, and we had 5. Right. We were in a smaller safety event group, but it doesn't matter. It's still. It's not like vehicle maintenance. Vehicle maintenance, you can have hundreds of inspections and violations on there and not be over threshold. Non-driver fitness.
Yeah. Well, I was working with a carrier some months ago and the English language proficiency came up, right? Because this isn't new. The enforcement is rather new, but I did notice that they had a lot of folks on their team who spoke other languages. Okay, I'll just say it like that. And one of my questions to them as the English language proficiency questions came up, they said, how are we going to be compliant? And they were having their own internal conversation and I'm just kind of sitting there. But I'm like, hey, quick question. Do your recruiters speak to them in their native language or are they speaking to them in English?
Yeah.
Like, let's take it a step back, right? And I know that we want to be accommodating and we want to be helpful. But now that this law is being enforced, this regulation is in full swing. And so it's those type of adjustments that you can make because guess what? We want you to be successful out there, but we also think just employing a little bit of forethought, thinking through like, hey, yeah, I want to help you. So I have a Spanish application for you to complete or in another language, or I'm offering that support to you. And I think it reminds me of what one of our lead ATA counterparts told a story. There was a driver who was able to get their CDL by having their spouse go to the classes with them. That spouse isn't going to come to work with you every day though. And their story was one of dedication and perseverance. And the person showed that they wanted to learn and they needed some extra help and some extra attention and they were able to give it to them. But a lot of times we can't afford to do that. Let's just be realistic.
There's a problem
That's just
in
one
the industry
person
right now, and that is the rubber stamping of CDLs.
Yeah.
There is, and then the next problem is the non-domestic carriers coming over here and running domestic freight that they're not supposed to be running.
Yeah.
All right, they're not. I mean, the recent crash in Florida. I mean, the guy could not effectively communicate in any way. And he got what I think it was like one of the signs correct, and that was it. So how did you get a CDL? Well, you got your CDL first out of California, and then I think it was either Oregon or Washington was the second one that gave it to him. Yeah. So it is a huge concern. It becomes a safety concern first and foremost, but then it also becomes a labor concern. Okay. If you're not like, I can't just go and say, hey, I'm going to be a pilot. Excuse me, sir, get out of my way. I'm going to go ahead and fly this plane. You have to be qualified for the job. And this is one of the most basic qualifications is being able to communicate with the people around you and working within your industry and engaging in your industry, right? Drivers are customer service reps. And it doesn't matter if you're in freight or if you're in car haul like me. Maybe it's a little bit more focused on the car haul side or some other of these businesses like Final Mile and stuff because you're directly interacting with the customer. But no matter what, you're the face. You're like the salesperson of the company.
I got to experience this back in the day when I was a cop, so we were on the interstate. DOT called up and said, hey, Department of Transportation officer, I'm going back to our Transportation 101 class there. But they asked for backup. So I go rolling up there and they have a semi pulled over and a guy doesn't speak a word of English and he's hauling, hazmat, couldn't speak a word of English. Didn't understand why he was pulled over. So now the DOT, cop is getting frustrated. He couldn't even put us in touch because it was a language that wasn't, normally spoken. So it's a very difficult language that we don't, I can get by with Spanish and some other ones, but this one, there was nobody that could even communicate. So it got to the point to where I'll never forget this. In Iowa at the time, every lug nut cover on the wheels that you could pull by hand was $87.50. That was a fine. So the DOT cop said again, he goes, get me somebody who can, communicate in both languages, interpret for us. Otherwise, every cover I pull off is $87.50. So he just started going $87.50, $87.50, $87.50. Then when we got to about $1,200, finally he was able to get somebody to communicate. And then we told him park it because they put him out of service until we can get somebody there that can drive and move it on, And this guy, we left, came back. He said, we're going to do it. They caught him trying to hook it back up to take off again. So I actually think
jumping it out of service
or something.
But
yeah,
huge.
that's the problem that, a lot of people don't realize that occurs out there is it's not just you need to learn how to know the language and the signs. I mean, this guy was hauling hazmat. And he doesn't even know what he's hauling.
Imagine if he had a serious crash and he had to communicate what is in that truck.
Yes, you can.
And because we all know there's hazmat materials and stuff. You put water on it.
Yeah.
It's going to be even worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And no matter what your thoughts are in the current administration, I think this is a step, at least in the right direction from my perspective, guys. I don't know if that's going to land well with everybody, but I think this is a step in the right direction. Make sure that everybody is safe. Motor and public drivers and carriers.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. Yeah. There's also different takeaways that we can aggregate for the benefit of the audience here. Because here's the thing. We don't want you to get caught in a situation that you have to then try to defend. So the best piece of advice is to try to get ahead of it. You may know that you already have a problem or you may not know. And so a lot of the carriers that I'm starting to work with, 10th Street offers like an English language proficiency, and it's available to all 10th Street clients for no additional charge, right? Use a free resource. I don't care if you have a paid resource, but have a policy, a practice in place to make sure that number one, it's fair and everybody goes through it because you don't want to say you, not you. That's open for discrimination, right? But it's going to be helpful for you to know where people are. I think that's the first line of defense.
I love that. And take that step, carriers. Like us at Pedigree, we have digital libraries in our ELDs. So why don't you put just a little class in there? That way, if you do have drivers who are struggling, but they're getting by, help them get by. Help them, get better, learning language better. It makes you a better carrier, and it makes that driver feel like you're invested in them. You want to help them succeed,
Motor carriers should already be working towards addressing this topic. They need to change their processes. And Christy, that was a great thing to point out, right? That 10th Street already has a solution in there. Rocco, you're talking about a library. You can, but you made the point that you want your drivers to feel like you are investing in them. They're struggling. It's okay. That's fine. But you want to see them get the help that they need so that they can stay in the industry. I can tell you that from our perspective, we've taken the approach of educating our managers and obviously our recruiters and stuff on identifying this, what questions to ask, decisions to make around hiring practices or leasing practices based on this. Because my worry, especially sitting from my seat, is that the future environment is this is used against you in litigation in a crash. If that driver's involved in a crash and they can't communicate, there's a linchpin for the plaintiff's bar again. And I know I'm going to be that guy that always says it, but I've got to be that person anyways. The plaintiff's bar is going to use this. I mean, why wouldn't they? They'd be idiots to not do it. You've got to be able to look at your current situation and change your processes, knowing that this has become a serious enforcement focus.
Yes, very serious enforcement focus. And so, if you are listening out there, I want you to take away some of these strategies and some of these tips. Huddle up with your team and come up with an actionable plan that you can use to really just get your drivers the help that they need, the proficiency that they need in the English language. It's going to help everybody. It's going to help everybody, and I don't think there's any getting around it. Right? I know it's cracking down in certain states, but it's just a hot topic right now. So all enforcement is really on the lookout for this now. What else, Rocco?
Yeah, guys, there's so much we can talk about, but again, to me, this is a really important topic. And I think this is going to spill over to another episode. I really have that feeling. But, I want to make sure we drive home that carriers, you have to do this, to make sure that you're going to be able to keep your company running, because nuclear verdicts are something else. My team calls on carriers all the time in different verticals, and I can't tell you how many times we call on carriers and they don't speak a word of English. The back office side. So if that's occurring from that perspective, how is that being related, to the drivers? And I know those drivers do not speak. I can tell you without a doubt, they do not speak. And if they do, they're not proficient. So again, this is something that is very, very, very important to the industry. And we got to drive that home to you guys. Like I said, I don't care what your feelings are about the administration. This is to make sure that you guys are safe as carriers. You're able to keep your doors open. You have to do this.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yep, not going anywhere. English language proficiency is here and being enforced at a very high level, at a high rate. Now, the last thing we wanted to talk about as far as a current event, I know 10th Street made some waves when we announced that we would have programming for employment verifications that you charge for, right? We call it kind of this reciprocal charging, but we know for a long time there are companies out there who charge for employment verifications, whereas per DOT regulations, that carrier needs to obtain the employment verifications and complete the DQ file within 30 days of hiring a driver, right? So the clock is ticking. You need this information. I know that a lot of carriers I work with have one of two schools of thought. Hey, number one is I'm just doing this because it's a regulatory requirement. I'm going to make my 3 good faith attempts and I'm done. Whereas other ones are like, no, I really need to verify this employment because it contributes to how I'm going to make decisions for how we pay this driver, what lane we offer them, some of the other benefits and perks of that employment, and they just have a very high safety practice at those specific carriers, right? And they just want to do things not just with what's regulatorily required, but they want to go above and beyond that. And so some are like, I don't really care. It doesn't really impact me because I'm going to try. I don't get them. I'm going to close it out. And others are like, hey, this is really going to impact my bottom line because I'm going to have to pay for these employment verifications. That was a little bit of foundational information. All that to say, we announced the reciprocal charging features and the external charging features as well. And we're a few weeks in and still seeing single digit numbers. So folks are not out there charging people left and right. We didn't think that they would, but wanted to create a sustainable, quality foundation for it if it goes in that direction. And I think 10th Street, we're trying to be agnostic, but this is bigger than just one vendor or a couple of vendors and some carriers. This is industry wide. And I think it really needs to have just like we have the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, a mandate of requirement for those employment verifications somehow. Seeing a lot of talk about that. What do you think?
The whole employment verification thing it's broken starting at the federal level. And listen, you're required to have your good faith effort, and that's the person sending out that verification of employment. As the motor carrier receiving it, you are supposed to respond to that within 30 days. All right. We already know that there's a vast contingency of the industry. They don't do it, period. Right? But there's no reporting mechanism to say, hey, carrier XYZ didn't respond to this, and then therefore build the database and then go and find that carrier. The federal government doesn't even have that. So that's one thing. Then on top of it, that smaller percentage of motor carriers that charge that the rest of us think you guys are just nickel and diamond for no reason. That's a joke.
No reason.
It's a joke. Oh, well, I'm covering my administrative costs. No, you're not. They're doing other things. All right. You have those people there to do other tasks. So you can paint it in whatever paint or picture that you want to. Sorry, I don't fall in the camp where I think that charging is necessary. It's a requirement. I'm going to respond to your VOE when you send it to me, and I'm not going to charge you, even though you want to charge me. And I just think that's an absolute joke in the industry, is that you're charging people. That's my stance. And I know, Christy, I think 10th Street's doing it the right way, trying to be agnostic about it and giving us as the carrier the ability to decide, am I going to reciprocally charge you? That was almost a tough word to say. Charge you for the VOE because you're charging me. But you know what? It's that old adage: does two wrongs make a right? Well, I'm just not going to charge.
Yeah.
Because
I think it should be. They should be free. They should be free. Well, right. We didn't want to even have to go this route. But yeah, they should be free. Sorry, Rocco, go for it.
No, I was saying, because all we hear about on the vendor side is nickel and diming this industry. So
and we're doing it to each other.
That's what I was going to say. And that's where we're at again. And I am one who I can't stand when that happens, or even people having that thought that we're nickel and diming, because it's not typically the case with a lot of vendors, right? There's some that I'm not going to name names, but if you send an email, a 30-minute, charge, whatever they break that down to, then you're going to get invoiced for it. So again, that is something that the industry does see, is, they always consider, oh, you're nickel and diming us. So I'm on Team Justin on this one.
And I don't even blame the vendors that this is kind of why they exist, right? There was a reason for them to create that business practice, because motor carriers wanted to do it. So it's not even like I'm picking on the vendors. So please don't take that the wrong way. It's a motor carrier decision at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a terrible practice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is Carrier Code Podcast, where this is a judgment-free zone. And we want to talk all things industry. Today's episode, we have focused on some conference travel, what's going on, how to get the most from it, and make good decisions when you're out and about. We also talked about English language proficiency and the new enforcement and where the numbers sit today, and wrapped it up with a little VOE chat, talking about those employment verifications. I heard a carrier say that they always send a certified letter because someone has to sign for it. And that is their proof, if it ever came back, like that they initiated the request for the VOE. And I was just like, genius. We hear things like that all the time. But what we're trying to do is make it all make sense, right? And Carrier Code Podcast is the place where you can listen to all of these different perspectives, hear some information, and we want you to stay engaged with us. So follow us on social media. Email us at knowthecode@carriercodepodcast.com. We cannot wait to hear from you. Carrier Code is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL Ticket Defense for Professional Drivers, and produced by Bulldog, Trucking's podcast pros. New episodes drop every week, so be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss an episode. You can listen on your favorite podcast platforms, watch on YouTube, or visit us anytime at carriercodepodcast.com. You'll also find us on all the social channels at Carrier Code Podcast. Thanks again for joining us. And until next week, I'm Christy.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Rocco.
And this is Carrier Code.